Before you go hide in a cave after you get that letter from the IRS, here are some things that you need to know. You can feel your heart start to drop when you receive that letter. You open it up and it tells you that you owe a lot of money in taxes. And naturally, you might panic. But let's be real, you might not actually owe that money. So on today's Pleasant Financial Conversation, I'm talking with Chris Cherico. He's an enrolled agent from North Carolina that specializes in having these conversations, back and forth conversations with the IRS to help you reduce your tax bill after you get that initial letter. And Chris, welcome to Pleasant Financial Conversations. Help us understand what actually happens when you first receive that tax bill.
Thanks, Liz. What most people don't realize is that that first letter is often a proposal. It's simply because the information that the IRS has reported on you doesn't match your tax return. So that initial letter gives you the opportunity to send in the documentation supporting the originally filed tax return.
Wait a second. So you're saying that once I receive this initial IRS letter, that it's a proposal, and if I stick my head in the sand, that I'm actually just agreeing with the proposal?
Yes, I often see this happening with investments, mostly when it's a self-prepared tax return or an individual that does their own financial planning. They lose track of the cost basis, or they inherited someone else's account and they don't understand what the step-up in basis was. And then this leads to taxable implications in the eyes of the IRS that may not really be accurate if everything was done accurately.
Okay, so paint the picture for me, Chris. You can use me as an example, and let's say that I'm your typical DIY investor, where I am trading from one investment to another investment. Let's say it's one mutual fund to another mutual fund, and I haven't accurately tracked my cost basis, the amount of money that I originally put into the first mutual fund. And therefore, the IRS sees that that whole event was taxable. And I'm unprepared for it. I receive this letter from the IRS. They say that I owe an exorbitant amount of taxes, and I am panicking. Then what happens?
Generally, you have three options from my perspective to help resolve the problem. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, you can try to get on the phone, get through the hold times, call the IRS, and be able to try to explain what happened. But if you cause this problem on your own, chances are you're not the best person to resolve it. Second is you can reach out to a national company. The national company generally won't work with you unless your balance is at a certain level in order to make it worthwhile for them to charge their retainer fees in order to help resolve your problem. Or you can help yourself by hiring a self-employed or a small practice, a CPA, or even better yet, an enrolled agent that their specialty is possibly representing clients in front of the IRS to be able to help, with that issue.
Okay, so you got three options after that. Tell me the pros and cons of each, of doing it yourself, of hiring the big box firm, or with going with a local enrolled agent or CPA to help you work through it.
So from my perspective, the pros and cons to each, the do-it-yourself person, the problem with that, they're going to be emotionally involved. They're going to get frustrated. They have generally better things to do with their time. The national company, generally it's a salesperson getting you into the door at that point, and they may overpromise and underdeliver. By the time the actual professional gets their hands on your case, managing your expectations may have gone out the window. Working with the person that's actually talking to you, looking over your notice, and then best advising you, that's the route I'd rather go. I'd rather talk to the mechanic instead of the venture capitalist owner that's telling you what's wrong with your car. So from my perspective, work with the person that's going to be resolving the problem, and I think you're going to get the best results, and hopefully they can manage your expectations.
Yeah, I think I'd rather talk to the mechanic as well. Tracking the cost basis in this type of situation is actually pretty simple. With a firm like mine, it's just in the enrollment documents for a new account. It's a checkbox that you say, I want to track my cost basis. It's pretty standard when you have a financial planner to be able to track that automatically and not have to worry about unwomaned cost basis. And one thing to note is that when you do change advisors, when the account transfers, sometimes the cost basis does not transfer with the data. And so that's why keeping year-end statements is so important. And I would personally keep a lot more year-end statements than I would keep anything else in the financial documentation, because it just showcases so much information about your portfolio investments and the cost basis information, so that if you get stuck in this type of situation in the future, you can go back and kind of piece together what the cost basis might be. Also, it can't be said enough to have a financial planner who understands enough about taxes to recognize that the portfolio adjustments that they're making have implications on your taxes. And you might be surprised, but not all financial planners, financial advisors actually have that piece of information. So a certified financial planner, which I'm always an advocate for, is someone who has studied enough on taxes to recognize the tax implications that they are creating. We're not CPAs, we're not enrolled agents, but when we're working in tandem with your CPA, your enrolled agent, then that's working in your best interest to help you move the needle, not only with your financial position, but also with managing your taxes long term. All right, friends, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And also to Chris, thanks for joining me on this pleasant financial conversation. It's nice to have a different voice, someone outside of the financial planning community, just to shed a little bit of light on some of those IRS letters, which has happened to many a person, and nobody likes that shock of panic that comes through when they receive that tax bill or proposal. So it's good to know that you can kind of negotiate that with the IRS when you have a good enrolled agent on your side or CPA. So with that, I will leave you, friends, and you take care.